When you go from stats to being like, I think I want to work with teams.
After BO4 champs. So BO4 champs was my favorite event ever. Like I thought that was like the best atmosphere.
Yeah.
It was the culmination of CWL. No one kind of knew what was happening after that. I was basically offered a spot with the New York team midway through that year, like April of that year or something like that. So I knew that it was coming. I still applied to law school just in case because I didn't know.
Okay.
Ended up deferring it for a year, but that just never ended.
You can always go back, man.
That's exactly what my parents said. That's exactly what I keep saying.
You've got the piece of paper.
You know, if it just fully dies out, we have nothing, it'll always be there, right?
Where do you keep your diploma? Is it hung up somewhere?
No, it's just at home or something. Thing is, like, the funny thing is, like, all of the work that I did, I mean, I took a few, like, computer science courses, so that kind of helped me, but all the work,
Did you forget it already?
Some of it, but it's just not necessary for the stuff I do, so it's pretty funny. I will say, though, it did do a really good job of a lot of, like, separate things that aren't, I don't know how to basically describe it, but working with people, personal, the emotional, regulatory stuff of other people, how to work with people, how to get the best out of other people.
Yeah.
Those are like really tiny tidbits that aren't like the main focus of school or what I was going
like
to major in for. Almost. But it's just like, really good life lessons that most likely helped me in the stuff that I was doing. Because I've always said this, like coaching is 80% personal relationship stuff and dealing with people, you know?
Was that a tough transition?
It was a cool transition. I would say, so starting off with the first year CDL, finally start to actually scrim and be in a scrim. And I'd never been in a scrim before.
Yeah.
Eye-opening experience. Because the first 2 weeks, you think you know about COD, and then the first 2 weeks, you're like...
You start hearing slurs.
Okay. Yeah, I guess some of that too. Some of the stuff cannot be repeated on stream for sure. But you realize like, okay, you don't know COD at like a high level.
Oh no.
Like I'm watching all those years and thinking like I know about COD and like what good plays and bad plays are. No.
So you got hired as a coach.
I was hired as like an analyst because I still consider myself an analyst as well, like because I use number stuff and data and VOD stuff to help me with whatever I'm trying to preach or work with the guys with. Revan took me under his wing because he was like the main coach for the team, and I learned a lot from him. And same with Lamar, and then same with like Clay later on, Krim, even Ant, Ken later on in the years too. But I had like a pretty star-studded like group of people to learn from, and that was just super beneficial. Like super lucky to be able to work with those guys because again, you think you know about COD, and then you spend all day thinking about it and seeing what bad plays are, what good plays are, how other people that have won a lot of championships look at the game, and you kind of get a feel for like, okay, this is how it should be played, or this is how we think it should be played going into matches or going into whatever.
So before you get hired as a analyst, which is a job with a salary and I'm assuming benefits and it's like a full job.
Yeah.
Were you still were you a full-time employee before that for MLG or for CWL?
I don't know if I was ever full-time. I was basically just working MLG events, doing remote stuff on the side that was kind of full-time, but it was basically just, I think I was technically a contractor.
Right, yeah.
But it did line up pretty well with my graduation. I think I graduated the year before I went full-time, so it was only 1 year that I was like not
doing contract
really
work
in the workforce, I would say.
Oh, okay. Because I imagine, the reason I asked that is because I can imagine that first day of work is, because I remember the first day, it's different, but the first day I got moved into the scuff house and stuff, like I remember thinking like everything about my previous life is different now. Like I have to figure out how to make this work. How do I fake it to act? In my head, I'm like, I gotta fake it like I belong here. Like, and now you're in charge of professional gamers, like to an extent, you alongside of another coach. Do you hop right into it? Know where you, or did it take some time to like?
It took a lot of time. Like to me, I wanted to take at least like the first 3 months of just observing. Oh, okay. Because I knew like I didn't know shit about COD.
Right.
As soon as those first 2 weeks happened, I was like, okay, I don't know shit. So I gotta learn from everything. So I don't want to say I was completely mute, but I wasn't gonna give my opinions on anything yet. I needed to learn everything that I wanted to before I could even input anything. And a lot of the earlier work was just observing, seeing like, what was good, what was bad. Because I have a lot of data, but again, if you say someone has a KD of X, that doesn't help anything.
Right.
A lot of my stuff is dealing with team stats. I don't care about the KDs
of my player.
Unless it's like, oh, you have a 1.0 on every map, but a 0.7 on one map.
Yeah.
Like then there's like, okay, maybe there's some sort of issue there. But most of the time it's team-based stats, because that's what I think is like the most efficient to actually working with players and with a team, because you can kind of really target issues that you might have. A lot of times, kills can just spread around, trades can spread around, but if a consistent way of actually looking at, if we're holding a hill, are we rotating it to a hill? Are we breaking this hill?
Right.
Are we trading well on one hill and not another? Are we winning our breakoffs? A lot of different stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that. I think people saw me as like, okay, he's the numbers guy. He's like getting their KDs for the map and telling them, but it's a lot more to it than that.
Do you think even the players thought that?
Maybe. I don't know.
If you're mute and they're just listening to Revan and they're like, JP's doing something.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing.
I wouldn't say I was mute. I was mute in terms of like giving my opinion on stuff. I was still super vibey and like
good.
Always with them in the calls and stuff, because I'm just that type of person.
Yeah.
But to me, it was like, okay, this is a passion project for me. I love COD. I love the aspect of like maybe impacting the team in a way that isn't inside the game.
Right.
And trying to figure out maybe what our weaknesses or strengths are versus maybe a team that we're going up's weakness or strengths are, and how we can work with that, if we can work with that. And thinking about it in that type of way, it was always cool to me, because I just always or at least from that point on, I always saw every play as kind of like a puzzle. Okay, we may have fucked up on the play, but what is the correct way we could have played that?
Right, yeah.
It's a puzzle in terms of like, okay, this person should have been here, or this person could have picked up this. Were our timings off? Did one person take the route when it should have been the guy before them?
Yeah.
It's always like a really interesting puzzle in terms of that. So that's how I always looked at it after that.
That's cool.
But the way I always thought of it, at least during that moment of like just observing, was like, okay, I'm going to observe. This is a passion project for me. This is going to take some time to learn, because I've never been in scrims before. From that point on, like later on in the year, I figured, okay, I kind of realized what's working for us, what's working for teams. Now I can kind of give my input on stuff that I'm seeing on my end data wise. And I think from that point on, I've been sort of similar in that, in terms of like, I'm obviously more communicative now with the players.
Right.
But giving my opinion on things that I see is a lot easier nowadays, because 5 years of spending every day in scrims, you kind of realize what's good and what's not.
Yeah.
Even if you never played. And that was always a big thing for me, because again, I don't want to overstep boundaries, because I never played before. So I never played pro. I never even played amateur.
Yeah.
But I watch a lot of VOD. So I figured, I was like, okay, this is working for teams. It's not working for us.
Okay.
There's a problem here. I don't need to play to understand that. And I don't think people need to play and understand that. I think there's obviously a big gap in terms of like, there are some aspects of playing that I'll never understand completely.
Right.
Like mentality wise, like thought process wise, it's always easy to say something that's in hindsight. And that's why I try to keep that to a very minimal, because I realize they don't have all the information on the map. I will, because I have Codcaster. But I figured that pretty quickly after the first year, like, okay, maybe a lot of the stuff I was doing was like, okay, I have all that information. They don't.
Right.
It's a lot easier when you have all that information.
When you can see everything.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of times you'll see people breaking down plays and stuff, but they don't have that information a lot of times when they're playing.
You can literally see people through the map.
Yeah.